The people that are crying the most are mainly blacks who have received the least amount of help from DEI. And not only that, it shows the hypocrisy of my people, elite black people sitting there crying, going against everything that Martin Luther King stood for. You break the law and you become untouchable.
Personal excellence is the ultimate rebellion to the oligarchy, to the one world government, to every politician.
I'm just a straight shooter. I don't want you to do for Trump what you did for Biden and Kamala. I don't want you suppressing stories. I just want the truth at the end of the day.
Hypocrisy is the overarching theme here.
Yeah.
It really is.
The judicial system is, everyone knows it. It's slanted against any normal human being, essentially. And that's got to get fixed.
Why do local and state police officers have to wear a body cam, but the FBI gets to write down and essentially create their own version of the interview?
Yeah.
I think that's bullshit. If a vaccine really prevents you from getting the disease, then what difference does it make if someone else chose not to? They're going to get sick if the vaccine works. They'll get sick and you won't.
Well, it's really not.
What's wrong with that individual voice?
Yeah. If my vaccine worked for me and you choose not to get it and you tell your ass out there and get sick, that's on you.
That is a solid point.
Sometimes the worst things that happen to us or become the best things that happen for us.
In the long run.
In the long run. And that's what, if you make it so. We can sit in your cigar lounge with any different walk of life. Lower class, upper class, different skin colors, different religions, different political ideologies, and have a civil conversation over a shared experience of love of cigars.
This is Sparta!
Welcome back to Spartan Leadership. I'm your host, Josh Kosnick, and this is the podcast for leadership, inspiration, and impact. But today, we got another Leadership in Review. It's our once a month where we get to talk about political, global, sometimes local happenings and what leadership is happening or not happening. So as always, my man, Emmanuel Whitfield in the building with his shiny dome.
For it is I, GMA, the greatest man alive.
And we got special guest, owner of the Tasting Room, which we've referenced frequently on the show.
Yes.
Our favorite cigar lounge, Jason Smith. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Josh.
Thank you for the cigars. He brought us in some Monty number 2s.
Yeah,
Cuban.
I can't sell them, but I can give them away.
That's right. Oh, man, hopefully Trump actually lifts that embargo.
Yeah, that would be cool.
He did not the first time.
I know. We'll see.
He did release the Kennedy files.
Maybe if we hit him up enough on Twitter and we just keep bombarding.
Yeah.
Yo, free Cuban cigars.
He needs to. That would be great.
As a person who sells cigars, I don't want them to be free. I would just,
No, not free.
I'm just kidding.
Just remove the shackles
There you go.
on the Cuban cigars. That would be helpful so I don't have to go through my back channels. All right, so today we're going to talk first about the executive orders and what's been passed down, because it's been a fast and furious, 9 days?
Yeah.
10 now, right?
Yeah.
10th day. We got confirmation hearings happening. Yes, we'll get into some of that. But executive orders. So, Jason, background real quick. You had a degree in constitutional law. Is that right?
I'm a recovering lawyer by trade. So my undergrad, I did a pre-law, what they call behavioral science and law. I also had a management psychology degree. So in between State Street bars, and happened to get 2 undergraduate degrees. Then I got a law degree, and I did some constitutional law. So I might be able to say something smart once in a while.
I always say
Don't hold me to it, though.
I'm a recovering financial advisor, but I got that actually because I recruited a pharmacist when I owned the financial firm, and he joked actually the first time I met him. He says, "I'm a recovering licensed drug dealer, aka pharmacist."
That sounds like a segue to me. I dabbled in the law a little bit and pharmacy a little bit. So
yeah, you dabbled in behind the law, behind the bars for a little bit. We've talked about that, but. All right, so what Jason E., what's been your favorite executive order so far? What do you think he's done right?
I think he hit the ground running. I think he didn't waste any time. DEI has been one of the most pleasant ones for me because it made me dip into DEI and look who it was benefiting the most. And the people that are crying the most are mainly blacks, who have received the least amount of help from DEI. And not only that, it shows the hypocrisy of my people in the hood or wherever else. All of these elite black people sitting there crying, going against everything that Martin Luther King stood for. Want to be judged by the content of my character and not the color of my skin. Now, when you get it, it's all whining. It's whining. And, to make another little quick point, the scare tactics are just coming out of everywhere. You got black paid actors on Instagram sitting there trying to tell the black public that DI is crushing blacks so much and it's going to hurt their business, but they never showed any advertisement for their business. They never showed anything to go online and use that business by, taking their business out of these major stores would help them be independent. It'll cut out the middleman. So that would have been a prime opportunity for them to advertise this business, but it was no business. It was just all pulling at heartstrings. So, the fear mongering is at an all-time high right now.
DEI stand for didn't earn it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which is a problem because for those that are people of color that actually did earn it, those of us on the outside looking in now question the merit of what they actually did.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Then that's the dichotomy that people don't think about. When people get in a position where they didn't earn it through meritocracy, it hurts those that actually have the ability to earn it.
And it makes you become a dependent. Start your own business where you don't have to go through any of this affirmative action, And the Democrats are very, very good at acting like they're against the elite and the rich, and they're fighting against it. But all they're doing is fighting to try to be rich and elite. Look at all the Democrats that try to tell people, I feel your pain. They're all Hollywood musicians, athletes. They're the elite telling the normal man, I feel your pain.
Like Selena Gomez crying on the internet. Right. They got taken down real quick. But it was funny because she's made all of her money in America.
Exactly.
Is an American.
Exactly.
Americans made her rich, but she says, my people are all getting arrested.
While crying for criminals.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Well, and that's been the overwhelming majority, right, when you started going after, and ICE made their rounds, they were really going after the most violent or convicted, either rapists or murderers.
Yeah.
It's not, if done properly, the goal is not to go out and round up anybody who doesn't look like you. The goal is to keep streets safe, based, again, to what you're saying about being, it's meritocracy, right?
Yeah.
If you're judged on your content of your character, it applies in DEI, but it also would apply, in immigration. If you come in and you play by the rules and you don't break the laws, then you're entitled to all the benefits of the social contract. Well, if you don't, then you should be held accountable.
Yeah.
Being an ex-criminal, it's such a slap in the face, and it's just the hypocrisy is just at an all-time high. It's almost telling someone, if you break the law, you get special privileges. But if you're a black man in America, if you're a white man in America, if you break the law, no one's going to cry when we pull you out of work. No one's going to cry when your son have to watch you walk out and come. But if you break the law and you're an immigrant, now Selena Gomez is going to cry. Black men, white men, we go to jail every day and she could care less. So it's just this elitism about her. My people, my group of people that broke the law, they get special privileges. That's just like, I don't know what type of common sense is that. You break the law and you become untouchable.
To your point earlier, Josh, you were mentioning about, the impact that affirmative action has on people. And it reminded me when I was in law school, Justice Clarence Thomas came to our school and he actually, and this is way, I'm dating myself here, but this was in the 90s. And at the time, we really hadn't seen the long-term effects of affirmative action. Mm-hmm. But Justice Thomas, his argument to our school and in general was basically what you're saying. Essentially, if you have a young person of color that is accepted into a school or a program that might not be a good fit for their abilities, it doesn't mean that they're not smart enough. It just probably isn't the right fit for that person in that program. And what he said is, it will, number one, it will hurt the self-esteem. It will hurt the future job prospects of the person getting the affirmative action treatment. But it also creates a negative view of everyone else that either didn't get that opportunity or who's already there in that position. And now you create animosity and division. And as far as I'm concerned, that's un-American.
You're absolutely right. And it also goes to culture. because there's a lot of people that don't care about skin color. In fact, the vast majority of
The
Americans
overwhelming majority of Americans
does not care about skin color. So I have an experience where at my old financial firm, we would get together as a company in Milwaukee every summer. And I had one of my advisors once, who's a great advisor. There was a woman on stage that did a quarter of as much production as he did. But he's like, I didn't get asked to go on stage because I'm a white male. Why am I listening to her when I'm 4Xing what she's doing? But she got on stage because she's just a different gender.
Yeah.
right.
And that's because they're on the DEI push and all that. But like, then it hurts the culture because he's automatically tuned out, whether she had anything good to say or not, just based on merit.
Right.
And that's a part of the problem that no one ever talks about either. Now, if she was whooping his ass, then he's going to perk up and be like, all right, what's she got to say? Because she's clearly doing something I'm not.
I agree. And I think that this conflation between equity and equality, right? I mean, that's a huge problem. It's one, if you say that we all have an equal opportunity to go out and make our way, that's how it should work in America. But if you say in terms of equity, we all go out and we work, and the people who achieve more, let's say 4 times more in this particular story, if you've achieved more, you should then get 4 times the rewards, regardless of your gender or skin color.
Yeah.
That's really what this country was founded on.
Everyone doesn't get a trophy, and that's what they want, everyone to get a trophy. And by all that affirmative action stuff is really stripping work ethic, is stripping self-awareness, it's stripping being an equal. You have to earn your way to the top. Don't give me nothing. Don't give me any crutches. Give me some fuel. But I think a lot of elite groups in politics started seeing the growth of the Black community and how much better it was back in the 60s before affirmative action and welfare and all of that stuff. That was a way to control and dumb down. You see it in the schools every day now. You hear about this alternative school. You hear about this school and how much money these schools need. But you never hear about Harlem Boys Choir, where there's a 99% graduation rate, 99% of getting all of these kids in college, polo team, chess champions, debate champions, all Black boys in Harlem. But when it comes to the Black elite, they don't want to talk about that. No, there's too much success. We want to pull at your heartstrings and tell you about the kids who can't, and the kids who will grow up and never be able to vote because they're too dumb to get an ID. And just the race baiters. They need victims. They don't want success stories.
Well, victims get a lot of federal dollars, right?
You go well put.
You'd think, ironically, that success stories would be the thing that gets funded, right? You'd think you'd create more of those schools because they're successful.
They do.
I just read this morning, take a guess at, out of the top 30 public schools in Chicago, take a guess at how many of those 30 schools in Chicago have children reading at grade level.
Oh, I guess 0.
Right?
Zero.
0. I
I
couldn't
was going to
believe
say less than 10%.
I had
but
to go back and look at it to make sure I didn't misread it. 0.
Mm-hmm.
That's unacceptable.
And how many federal dollars do they get?
They actually had a range. It ranged between, I believe it was $18,000 and $27,000 per student.
But there's a reason why they can't read at that level. I mean, Democrats will tell you every day it's the Ku Klux Klan that's stopping the book from coming in.
It's the race baiters.
They're Donald Trump's fault.
No expectation.
He's not showing up for work. And Donald Trump's not teaching the kids the right way. So I got a legitimate excuse for that.
Yeah, right. So my big thing, so it's kind of on this topic, is the transgender in the military. That's not my favorite one. I think that what they're doing on immigration is necessary. It's what he got voted into office to do, to clean up the streets. But the transgender in the military one is this. So I have a lot of former military friends, special forces, stuff of that nature. If you talk to the active duties and the people that know, the people that are transitioning, we, the taxpayer, are paying over 6 figures for them to go through their surgeries. And they're non-serviceable per person, and they're non-serviceable, not deployable. Meaning that not only are we investing in all the military training that they're doing, we're investing over 6 figures per person to not be deployable.
Okay, I get what you're saying. So basically like fixing up that Bugatti or any car you got in your garage and say you can't drive it on the streets.
That's right.
Fix it up, but you can't drive it on the streets. And this is just becoming cosmetic surgery. If you want, women might as well, if they want the big breasts and the BBLs and all of that stuff, just enlist in the military and you'll get fixed.
No, they don't get that.
Oh.
Only the transgender do.
Oh, okay.
So
I don't understand how that wouldn't be subject to an equal protection challenge under the 14th Amendment. You'd think that, if you were a female soldier that wanted a breast enhancement, I know we're getting out in the woods here, but if you wanted a breast enhancement, you should be able to then sue and ask
Get the same treatment.
have the same equal treatment.
And E could get a penile enlargement.
I tried that before. I couldn't fit through the door.
Out a magnifying lens.
There goes your constitutional law stuff. You could.
Because I'm the lawyer.
Not anymore. I don't.
Had this gone down that path and had Trump not have been elected, that probably would have happened. Because you're through that law, and if a woman decided to make such a point of it, because the transgender, they can go through all their surgeries. Oh, and here's the other point that the military friends were making, is that they go on full disability as soon as they leave the military, and that's another 60-ish grand per year every year until death.
Wow, that's a come
on our taxpayer dime.
I need to get that operation. I need to join the military, get that operation, and just retire.
What would be your female name?
Emmanuela. That would be nice. I'd be Emmanuela.
You'd be bored if you were.
Totally nuts, because I'd be female, then I'd be a lesbian. I'd just be all messed up.
Yeah.
I'd be like Caitlyn Jenner.
Yeah.
And sue myself for touching myself. Some man touched me the other day.
All right, before we get too far off the rails, I want to talk about immigration a bit. I have a stat. While I'm pulling that up, Tom Homan has gone hard so far, and he talked about that. Like, I love the new Trump administration's tact with legacy media.
Who's he rolling with, though? Dr. Phil.
That was in Chicago. Talk about that for a minute while I'm looking this stat up.
Dr. Phil and Tom Homan out here gangbanging, They catching these criminals.
That was a pedophile. He goes, you look like Dr. Phil. He goes, do I?
Hey, but Dr. Phil is bringing the heat. Dr. Phil say, what'd you go to jail for? What are you in there for? He said you were touching a little kid. Dr. Phil is not playing any games. He wanted to be a cop.
All right, so check this out. Bill Clinton, 93 to 2001, approximately 870,000 people deported during his tenure. G.W. Bush, about 2 million deported from 2001 to 2009.
To the deporter-in-chief.
Obama.
Yes.
3.2 million, a.k.a. deporter-in-chief. Trump's first term, around 1 million.
Yeah.
So Trump was actually less than Bush and less than Obama in his first term.
Never heard any liberal tears for Obama. You never heard not one Selena Gomez crying. You didn't hear anyone crying when Obama has the highest number of deportations out of any president. And it's only when Trump deports someone, people cry.
Well, that was back before social media was allowed to speak freely.
Yeah, they still wouldn't have said anything because it was Obama doing it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing to see the transformation already down to, I think, the border crossing or run-ins or incidents were down to like 54 on the day, which they used to be in the thousands the last 4 years in just 1 week.
Well, it was a chunk of that was self-deportations as well, right?
Yeah.
Now that the rule is if you get caught and deported, you can't reapply for 10 years.
Yes.
Which is a brilliant strategy because if you want to leave and then come back and apply, that's great. We want immigrants. We want a meritocracy. We want a bigger talent pool. Just do it legally.
That makes a lot of sense, what you just said. I try to put that in like a driving form. If they tell you come to court and you pay this ticket, you can reinstate your license. But if you don't show up, you won't be able to get your license for 10 years. That'll wake you up a little bit, So that does make sense. Makes a lot of sense.
Personal accountability.
Yeah.
It's weird,
Does
right?
make a lot of sense.
It makes a lot of sense. My boy Andy Frisella always says personal excellence is the ultimate rebellion. To the oligarchy, to the one world government, to every politician.
Yeah.
Because the thing is that we keep getting trapped on is, a lot of Republicans are happy right now. A lot of people are happy right now that Trump's in office. But unless the culture changes, Like, he's not coming to save us.
No.
Just like Kamala wasn't going to save the Democrats.
He could wake some people up.
And he has.
A lot of people
sure.
need to do some soul searching, like when you're not left wing or you're not right wing. Like, I would not want these media companies like Facebook and all that cozying up to Trump to give him any type of favors. I'm just a straight shooter. I don't want you to do for Trump what you did for Biden and Kamala. I don't want you suppressing stories. I just want the truth at the end of the day. Don't kiss up to Trump, and if Trump does something wrong, he needs to be punished for it. I don't go by, I'm blind to my party. I don't turn a blind eye to the party that I like. I don't like either party. I like the MAGA party, but a lot of people say it's good for me because it's going against Trump and it's good for my team. I don't root for that. I root for right and wrong.
As soon as you pick a team, and you have especially media in general, if you pick a team, it's just another version of censorship. Whether you lie affirmatively in the story or you stop a bad story from coming out of your team.
Unless it's Team Joseph.
I mean, and there's a reason why the First Amendment was first, because it's fundamental to have a functioning electorate that can understand issues and cast intelligent votes.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. It's fascinating to watch the liberals freak out right now and talk about an oligarchy. And they're specifically referencing the billionaires, the tech billionaires sitting behind Trump.
That supported them for years.
That was the point I was just about to make.
It's so crazy.
Right, Mark Zuckerberg donated $100 million to Biden.
Biden, yeah.
Right, so they're code switching, to use a new age term, right?
They were the great darlings of the left when they were donating all that money to Biden, and now they're Satan. They're like, oh my God, we got Bezos and Zuckerman. They suck. They are kissing up to Trump.
Didn't one of the Soros family, was it the son that got the Medal of Freedom?
No, it was the dad. The son went and got it for him, because I don't think Soros was going to show up with Trump that close to taking office. He's a spineless coward that's trying to ruin the world.
Hypocrisy.
Yes.
So that's it, right? Like, they talk about an oligarch. Someone just brought that up. It was a clap back at the media. I think it was Stephen Miller that brought it up. Like, two people that would be considered in the oligarchy billionaires, including George Soros, got the Medal of Freedom from Biden.
But that is one of the sort of the hallmarks of that far left ideology is, commit certain types of unscrupulous actions, but first accuse your opponent of doing it. So then when you get caught doing that as well, it creates this fog of war and you confuse the citizenry. I mean, that's straight out of the Saul Alinsky rules for radicals. I mean, again, getting maybe a bit far afield on that, but you see the hypocrisy very glaring when they do that.
That was Hillary's favorite book.
Right.
You want to talk about hypocrisy, and I hope Trump doesn't fall into this trap. In Romania, they just had a presidential election. The left wing over there started funding the Green Party, and they thought this right wing guy would never win. He ends up winning. The Supreme Court overturns it and says, you can't be president because Russia interference. Put in some, just like America. And Biden was behind it. You need to check that out. They overthrew a legal election and said the Russians interfered when it was the left wing that interfered in reality, and they never thought this guy would win, and he won. So I don't know if they're going to redo the election, but I think that's a bunch of unbelievable that they could do that over there.
Alec, you want to talk about Romania? No, but that's where Sean Ryan went after that happened. Sean Ryan, who runs that great podcast. But yeah, it's crazy, and that's what France did, where they teamed up. The right wing person won or was winning really, and so the left wing got with the third party and took him out. So like the whole country was red except for like Paris.
Wow.
And that was enough to swing the vote so that Macron's dumbass is still in office.
Wow.
France's version of the uniparty.
Yeah.
Yep. It's all over the place. But yeah, I thought that was interesting.
So I want to go to. We talked about, actually, we didn't get to talk about you going to the inauguration.
Oh.
So Jason here went to the inauguration.
Well, I had tickets to the inauguration, to be clear. And my wife and I went out there, and we were going to be right up front left. Then we got the news that it was cold and they were moving everything inside. One of my friends who's a chief of staff for a sitting congressman got us some tickets, and but he didn't even get to go. I mean, just his boss got to go. But we did we met a whole bunch of just wonderful people. Aside from Wisconsinites, I'd say the Texas delegation were the most fun people I know. They were so much fun. They were so kind. So grateful to all the nice things. And we even got an invitation to go down to Mar-a-Lago for Michael Flynn's. He's having a fundraiser on the 13th of February. So my wife and I are going to go down there for the first time.
To Mar-a-Lago? That's awesome. What was the vibe?
The vibe was, I would say, somewhere between the Super Bowl and, and really just electric. I mean, it was like a rock concert in the Super Bowl. There was a lot of positivity. In terms of, I know that on the news you would see, protest after protest. We spent a lot of time within the downtown, like that 4-block radius zone around the White House. I don't think I personally saw a single protester, and we were down there for 4 days, out and about. I know there was one, that they televised, but again, very little pushback. Even people that, when we would go out to, like a bar or a restaurant, people that, would describe themselves as not being overly political still seemed very optimistic. So I would say just overwhelmingly, positive, jubilant is a good word.
That's how I felt like the whole campaign was on the Trump side versus the Kamala side. Like they had a fake manufacturer paying artists like maybe it
was no excitement.
But like Trump, so when he came to Wanakee and Jenna and I were able to go to that, only 500 people got in, but there was 10,000 people outside.
Yeah.
And there was 9 protesters. I counted them.
I would say that's about the same ratio in DC when we were pretty much the same.
And so one of my favorite comedians too out there, who?
Oh, Eddie Bradford. Yeah. My bad joke was that I said, I'm sorry, I didn't recognize you. Must have been undercover. Which he actually did think was pretty funny.
It was really dope.
Yeah. Oh, you could have called him Cat Williams.
That would have been weird.
What's up?
I would say of the people that I met, one of the most interesting conversations, and this actually ties into, I would say, one of my favorite executive orders. I had a really in-depth, pleasant conversation with Rod Blagojevich.
Interesting.
We sat down and talked to him, and what was interesting was, and I had already seen when he was on road.
Then the Chicago
governor, got over there, Illinois,
got lined up under Obama.
Yeah. So without, I don't want to divulge too much of the conversation, but the long and short of it was, that he was really one of the first victims of democratic lawfare. As it was starting to ramp up under Obama. There was quite a bit of, and I know he talked about this publicly, but he, was not engaged in selling a Senate seat, even though he was convicted for it. And that it was, in fact, Obama and some of the Obama circle that were attempting to sell that seat.
Allegedly.
He had recordings of those phone calls, and at trial, he was not allowed to present them. And he, leading up to the trial, he said that he, felt very confident about it because he knew that he was on tape saying, I'm not going to get involved in this. And then both the U.S. attorney and the judge would not allow him to present his own voice recording of him and Obama. They wouldn't allow it to be evidence in front of the jury. And I believe he spent 6 or 7 years.
7 years in prison.
Yeah. Just awful. So what I was going to tie that to was one of the, and although this, isn't broadly impacting every person on a day-to-day basis, the J6 pardons, from my perspective, and I'm, a law and order constitutional kind of guy, was a big deal. And if you have a government that can round people up and overcharge them and throw them in essentially the equivalent of a gulag in D.C. to be beaten and put in solitary, not have contact with lawyers. I mean, you could go down the Bill of Rights and make a list of all of the violations. It's horrible, and I couldn't believe that happened in my own country. So when I saw that, I was, as a constitutional law guy, I was elated to see that these, and actually, even as we sit here right now, there's several of them that have been transferred and they're still sitting in jail cells. And the DC, both the prison bureau and the prosecutors, are refusing to allow them. And I can't independently verify this, but I have been told that one of I believe it was the Green Beret that was locked up. They were only going to allow him to leave if he agreed to sign an NDA about the treatment he received when he was there, which clearly is unconstitutional.
So I heard to that point from my sources that some of these people were the ones that they're still holding were in such bad shape that they're holding them to essentially heal before being viewed to the public,
right,
because they had beaten the shit out of them, treated them, malnourished them, essentially like a Nazi prison camp.
You bet.
To some of these people, and treated them so poorly that they don't want those crimes to be visibly seen.
Well, I have no sympathy for anyone that hit the police. I don't care if you're on the left side or the right side. That's just a no-no, especially saying you support the police. There shouldn't be nothing that ever gets in your head to be throwing sticks and I just thought that was crazy. Now, the nonviolent ones, I would have pardoned all of them. But if you throwing rocks or you hitting the police, I have no love for you. I have no sympathy for you. But they just went overboard. They were charging lone people that just by themselves with conspiracy. It takes two to make a conspiracy. They were charging people who didn't even go in the Capitol, so they overreached. And the people that are on the left that are all wild up about it, have that same energy for the BLM rioters. And while you're saying lock these guys up, you're trying to find bail money for the people that you like and dropping charges for all of these violent criminals. I like it both sides the same amount of justice on either side.
Hypocrisy is the overarching theme here.
Yeah.
It really is.
Because I agree with you, is like the ones that, so I almost, well, I don't know, I'm going to say that I disagree with pardoning all of them.
Me too.
Because I think that there should be.
They weren't all pardoned. The ones that were involved in certain types of behaviors where they were culpable, their sentences were commuted. They did not receive a full pardon.
Okay,
So
good.
It did create a difference.
Yeah.
So the bad actors were not essentially getting a clean place. It's because they were overcharged and oversentenced. Yeah. One of them, again, I don't want to drill down too far, but one in particular that was disturbing, the woman that was beaten to death by the Capitol Police, one of the guys that was charged with the assaulting a police officer was trying to pull the police off of the woman who was being beaten,
and he got
and she ultimately died. And he got so it is a case by case basis.
But
the ones that were involved physically, their sentences were commuted.
Okay,
not pardoned.
All right, good. I like it. Yeah, thank you.
And to me, that seems completely reasonable.
Yeah,
that's more reason. I didn't know that.
Yeah, the way I did not, in all the stuff that I read, I actually did not read that, and especially because I try to read both sides to see how crazy the left is getting. And of course, they're saying, I cannot believe they pardoned these police beaters and stuff like that. I'm like, well, I actually kind of agree with that.
Yeah.
But now hearing that makes sense.
That's no different than what you read about the executive order that says, okay, we're going to pause all of the federal government payments, right? And what happened? They stirred up Medicaid, and well, they didn't.
Stop food stamps.
And so what's crazy about that, for those that don't even, don't follow along or don't know how to read the bills or read between the lines, you literally had people crying on the internet that literally believed that their SNAP cards were going to be canceled, Medicaid was off, and they're like, well, how am I going to buy food tomorrow?
Even though the language of the executive order specifically says it does not.
You cannot blame CNN for jumping on that. You have to go back to this Rhino party, and Trump's got to get better at this. You have to. It's easy to go on TV and explain. Look, they're going to say we're going to cut this. This is what we're not going to cut. You have to explain. No one explained that we didn't let.
It's a pre-frame. That's actually a key point of communication in sales or anything. It's pre-framing.
Yeah, you can't lie on me. I'm going to beat you to the punch, and I'm going to I know CNN's going to say we pardon everyone. Me and you didn't even know as much as we want. He should have said we commuted the sentence of these violent guys because they were over-sentenced. But you leave this doorway open for the Democrats all the time, and Trump's got to get better at that. See, they live in that bubble. They don't live in reality, Yeah. I've looked at the New York Post. You have to sue them. If you're any Republican, to let the New York Post come out and say Trump had no black people at his ball, his dance, and they cropped out all the black faces that were there. And they got the before and after picture. You can't let them get.
Jason was there. Eddie Griffin was with them.
No, that was Eddie Murphy.
Another interesting conversation I had there was I met the gentleman that works for the New York Post and had another he was one of the 2 reporters that broke the Hunter Biden laptop story. And at the time, and again, I don't want to get him in trouble, but at the time, he did say he could not understand why his boss was giving him so much pushback. He had worked there for 10 years. Everything was properly vetted, and he moved forward. And he said that everything would, and then randomly they would get called in the office, and he'd basically just be told, you can say this, you can't say that. And now he understands, of course, we were getting a lot of pressure, just like Facebook and everyone else. But he said it really changed the way that he felt about the world and the parties. So for the better.
Yeah, and going back to your judicial and the law here, you made a point a little bit ago. I just want to say, I would love to see Trump's list. I know I never will be able to, but of like rank of order, because we know he's playing chess on all these moves.
Right.
Because the judicial system is fucked.
Yeah.
Everyone knows it. It's slanted against any normal human being, essentially. And that's got to get fixed. And it's got to get fixed in the next 4 years.
It's become establishment. It's pick a side now. It's like they'll say a Trump appointee, or why would you even say that? You're not supposed to have allegiance to either party if you become a justice.
It's supposed to be the law.
The law is blind. But they'll say, they tell on themselves, oh, Trump's Justice Department will go after Biden's family. But you just said the Justice Department wouldn't do anything like that. They always tell on themselves.
Yeah.
Well, interesting thing, since the Kash Patel hearing, I believe, is today. That he could go a long way to cleaning that up. I mean, he's gonna, have to endure the rhinos, and I don't know if Elizabeth Warren's gonna get mad about him or not. But I guess it depends on how many campaign donations she got from.
That's exactly what it depends on, because that's what it depended on yesterday.
I guess the interesting thing about this is, I think a good way to go after cleaning up this lawfare would be to maybe administratively, through the executive branch, remove those 302 interviews, that those forms that whenever the FBI does an interview, they fill out a form 302, and it's a handwritten summary, only really of the FBI's summary of an interview, which doesn't make any sense. You think in this day and age you could just have a video recording of every single interview on your phone. But here's the interesting part, is that, so the FBI hand writes these notes, and they say what they ask, they say what they claim the response is, and they oftentimes talk about whether they believe it's a truthful answer or not. It really involves a lot of speculation, among other things, and trust that they're going to be honest, but it's often referred to as the federal perjury trap. So that an FBI agent can sit down, ask you questions, and even if you're not sure or you mistakenly remember, this is what happened with General Flynn.
Yep.
He didn't remember exactly. I believe it had something to do with phone conversations that he had on a telephone
overseas phone
and
call.
They knew, they had the illegally wiretapped. They had all the transcripts, so they really kind of tried to play a gotcha moment and trap them in perjury, and that they have done that systematically over the years. I think if they just removed the handwritten, take the discretion away from the interviewing FBI agent and replace that with a simple video recording, and then whenever you have a motion hearing in front of a judge or jury, that you can just look and make a decision for yourself.
Or put a stenographer in the room like you do in depositions of a normal civil suit.
I'm saying, if you wanted to save money,
Videotape
it on, put it on your.
There's
such a simple solution. But
there's a couple different solutions, like depositions that I've been in, like stenographers paid to be there to make sure that the facts are the facts.
Right.
I think video would be better.
Well, let me ask you this: Why do local and state police officers have to wear body cam, but the FBI gets to write down and essentially create their own version of the interview?
Yeah.
I think that's bullshit.
Do you guys think the deep state has gotten so powerful where there's no consequences for destroying any type of evidence, any type of documents? The January 6ers, they destroyed everything, and there's no consequence for it.
Well, Hillary destroyed everything as well.
No consequence.
No consequence.
I think they're getting way out of hand, and it's pretty dangerous.
So that's why this Kash appointment is so crucial.
But Trump and Castro, you can't just get that type of power and just let it linger. You have to go in and do something, like when he just said, change some laws. We're going to start
Castro's proven like he's a bulldog, and that's why the left and the deep state really don't want him. So I'm curious.
But it should not be. It should not be a revenge tour. It should be a cleanse tour. You need to clean it up for future generations. You just can't say, "I want my revenge," and just leave it there. I want some bulletproof things where we can go to the video. This is what he said. You don't have a chance to, change the documents or anything like that. And that one party thing is just, I just thought about rhinos. You never hear about dinos. There's no Democrats and Republicans and rhinos. They're all on the same team. There's never no Democrats that's going to stand up and say, I'm a dino, other than Merchant. He really wasn't a dino, but there's no Democrats in Maine only.
After yesterday, I would argue that Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders are now dinos. Because when you take a look, and they each received, or she received almost $1 million.
And he was 1.5.
Or $1.5 million, right. I think they expose themselves as being not a true Democrat because they're not doing it to help the people, so they claim.
But they still don't stand up for anything good. You see how they don't.
No, you know the only one that does right now? Fetterman.
Yes,
He's the honest dude.
That's what a dino is. He's
shit.
Yeah, Merchant's got it. He said, hey, I think Trump got politically prosecuted.
In hindsight,
yeah,
him beating, wasn't it Dr. Oz that he beat? For that?
Yeah, I think
for the Senate seat?
I think that's correct.
Yeah.
I think that was a good thing because I think Dr. Oz would have been a rhino.
He would have been a rhino. He would have played ball. But like Fetterman, he is a dino. And then it's just amazing how most of these black politicians, as soon as they get in trouble, they become a Trump lover. Because Joe Biden forgot about all of them. Look at Kwame Brown, would have been rotting in prison if it wasn't for Trump. What's Adams out in New York? No, he's a Trump lover now because the Democrats were about to smash him. And then the other one, Menendez, the other day. Trump was right. Oh, now he's right because you just got 11 years. He's begging for that pardon because the Democrats, they play dirty. They play dirty ball.
Well, the whole deep state plays dirty, and George Soros funding all these corrupt DAs and judges is the biggest problem with it. And then he gets the Presidential Medal of Freedom.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
no different than getting a Peace Prize when you're Obama making an apology tour, or getting what's the other one, the Pulitzer Prize on the Russia hoax. I mean,
yeah,
they're fake.
Peace Prize.
They're all fake awards. I get it, but the Presidential Medal of Freedom in America has stood for something in the past. It's now looks like it really does because we went through that list. I was like, a couple of these people, Jane Goodall, a couple other couple people on there were like, yeah, I can see what they've done for humanity.
Yeah.
But then you get George Soros and
funds welfare.
It's like,
how outrageous.
That has bankrupt foreign countries for his own interests. Like
almost Great Britain, right? That was the big one.
The lady that started Planned Parenthood, I killed a bunch of babies. Give me this Medal of Honor. Jesus Christ.
Well, let's talk quick about, we could do the pardons, which we just really did. But I think that it would be good
to the Biden pardons or the Trump pardons?
To talk about the Trump. Well, we actually talked about both. The other, who else did Trump pardon?
I like Dolly Parton.
Not even spelled the same. Bad joke. Bad joke.
That's that liberal school teaching I've been going through.
There was the crypto kid, right? Or he got
Silk Road.
Yeah,
Silk Road guy. That was the crypto.
What was that?
Oh, must be NSA.
What did they get him for? Some conspiracy, right? They got him for a conspiracy.
Yeah,
the crypto kid. Oh, they said he was basically conspiring to sell drugs on his dark web.
The dark web, yep.
Yeah.
So a lot of liberals were pissed. I want Snowden and Assange.
Both
pardon.
Agree.
Yeah.
Agree completely.
Me too.
All they did was disseminate truthful information.
And that will expose the left's hypocrisy because they should want both of those guys pardoned too. So we'll see.
Well, they should, but
yeah. Have you seen anything come more from the JFK, all those releases?
No, not yet.
They're going to redact a bunch of stuff.
It has to be reviewed, obviously. But I guess it's, did I read 15 million pages?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
It's a lot. I know it's in the multiple millions, and I thought I had read 15, but you could check it. It's millions and millions of pages.
I think anybody with common sense should been known that the deep state and government and Lyndon Johnson and all those guys had their hands in killing Kennedy.
Oh, yeah, if you haven't had your head in the clouds and believe that Lee Harvey Oswald
was the lone shooter. Yeah. That's not...
Yeah, everyone knows. But I think it'd be effective to understand exactly what happened. And specifically, I think we all assume it was the FBI or CIA with MLK, but it would be, there's been less smoke about that than JFK.
Yeah.
And it would be good to know, like, hey, our government did have a part in this. And then, like, this is why we got a clean house.
Well, I think it would be interesting to see, what, if any, connection there is with all three of those assassinations, with RFK Sr. as well. And I think I had watched an interview with RFK Jr. where he talked about information that he was given from a family member that essentially said that it was his own father's either bodyguard or Secret Serviceman that shot him close range in the back.
Well, and JFK was shot before he got shot in the head.
Right.
Yeah.
And they never talked about that either, but there's in the videos that they showed the different angle of, it looked like it was one of the police officers on the motorcycle behind him.
Yeah.
He did something with his hand that made it look like he was shot a pistol, which was the shot that shot him in the back. And then there was a shot that probably came from the grassy knoll to the head.
Who shot RFK? Sahan? What was his name?
Well,
so they say.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just amazing how all the guys that supposedly pull the trigger, they get killed right away. That's crazy. Just like the Trump shooter get killed right away. And it's amazing. They can't go in his
only hosed off within 24 hours. The FBI's hosing off all the evidence on the top of the roof.
And then we still haven't heard anything more about that.
No.
But like then we were talking about the New Orleans thing and the Vegas thing. Within 24 hours, we had all the information on these guys. But we still haven't heard anything about the Trump shooter. The Vegas shooting from the country concert, that got buried.
Yeah.
I did a bit of a deep dive one day and started reading about, it's a lot of odd things, or reports from multiple casinos, witnessing shooters on the street. I mean, there's on X, there is, I think it's about a 15, 20-minute documentary, independent journalist. I'm forgetting the woman's name, but it was worth watching. Again, I can't independently.
Was that the one talking about the Saudi Arabian connections? Yeah.
That was the one. Yeah, it's very interesting. So, do I know? I don't know, but it at least raises questions. It look good to raise questions. Unless you're Anthony Fauci, you don't want to question the science.
Yeah. Redacted.
Speaking of shootings, did you hear about the one like over the last week? A black student kills a white girl. The media bring out his media, his social media stuff. They're saying the black student is a KKK member who hates blacks. I said, well, why didn't he just shoot himself right away? But then they tried to say that he's a Candace Owens lover.
Was his name Clayton Bigsby? That's what I was thinking. The black white supremacist.
How on earth are they trying to say this kid was a black? I don't know what they were trying to get at. And it was amazing that they could get his social media stuff right away and say he was inspired by Candace Owens. And she just laughed when she heard
Larry Elder. Wasn't he the LA Times said he's the black face of white supremacy?
Yeah.
That's unbelievable, the stuff they get away with.
But you guys were talking about, right, like framing things ahead of time, right? And framing that issue ahead of time.
Yep.
I mean, that's really what LA Times came out and, they did that because they knew he was going to be a black conservative, so let's paint him as a racist right away.
Did y'all see RFK Papa Zinn midstream? And,
no, I didn't see
hearing yesterday. Yeah. He did it really slick too. He's like, you see him tuck right there. It was like, RFK is a beast. Let's talk about some of the
you think
nomination
confirmed?
I think it's going to be real close. It'll probably be a Vance signing off again. Is going to be my opinion. So you think Shanahan's saying, I'm going to fund against your primary if you vote against
Isn't that Warnock? Is that
Warnock, the Georgia guy, who was also about $1 million in pharma money donated to his campaigns.
Yep.
Wow.
And because she was a Democrat, she had funded his campaign to get him elected.
RFK's running mate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And now she's going against him?
She's not going against RFK.
Oh.
She's going against anyone that goes against RFK.
Nice. You got to play hardball.
Because RFK, and what's hilarious about this is the Democrats loved RFK up until this point where he joined Trump.
Yeah.
Like Obama nominated him for a very high-ranking position to get confirmed, and he turned that down for some reason. I can't remember what it was.
With flying colors.
But it would have passed with flying colors.
Yeah.
Vaccine Safety Board, I thought, is what they were talking about, that he was going to be in a subcommittee with the FDA.
Yeah, and he turned it down or something of that nature, but Obama wanted to nominate him for a very high position in his first campaign or his first presidency run.
I was watching Breaking Points earlier, not to give him a shout out, but Crystal Ball, she hates Trump so much. She was like trying to rattle off about Kennedy, and she was saying, well, we got the bird flu coming around, and he's against the bird flu vaccine. And Sager looked at her and said, how do you know it works? She just like, just that Trump derangement syndrome. He said, how do you know it works? And he just wants to make sure it's safe. And he said, what's mad and crazy about him wanting to make sure it's safe? How do you know it works? And she had nothing for it. Just all about, I hate Trump.
Well, I have a solution for the bird flu. I can't believe anyone hasn't thought of this, especially the scientists.
What's that?
You just put masks on all the birds. See, now that's a good joke. Well, I'm going to teach you something.
I thought you were going to vaccinate all the birds.
No.
Shoot the birds with bird flu.
You just the masks.
We don't want them to die of heart attacks and blood clots. Just one.
They tried the mask, but they ended up starving.
You just mask all the birds.
It's okay. You can take it off to eat.
Yeah, no, once you sit down, if you, Mr. Bird, Mrs. Bird, I'm sorry, you have to wear your mask. But once you sit at your table, you can take it off.
You cannot have all these birds running around State Street talking about birds' lives matter. We cannot have that going on around here. BLM.
It's a simple solution. For
As a BLM, little birds can be coming out. Marching and protesting.
Again, on this pre-framing, on a serious note, I mean, it's amazing to me that anybody at this point in time can still believe that RFK Jr. is anti-vaccines.
Right.
He is not. He is only anti-untested or unproven vaccines, or really any medication.
You should root for that.
You should. He's asked for double-blind studies to prove that they're safe and that they actually do what they say they're going to do. How is that controversial?
Right.
It boggles my mind.
The whole thing is crazy because I posted this on my story today. They brought up measles. I may mix up the numbers. It was either 25 or 52 times Democrats did in their, rants yesterday. Guess how many times they brought up long-lasting conditions like diabetes, overweight, obesity. How many times do you think?
Zero.
Which affects what? Over 60%.
So chronic
of our young
illness.
people.
Yeah, 60% of our young people, I think 70% total of the American population with chronic disease.
Yeah.
And they brought it up 0 times.
I thought one of the most important points that he made was when we talked about, COVID mortality here in the United States, that it was we had the highest percentage per capita of COVID deaths, but that's because we're the sickest, right? It was every person that died from getting the COVID virus had 3.8 on average, 3.8 comorbidities. So they were already really, really sick.
Mm-hmm.
And they, really any type of severe virus is going to put them over the edge at that point.
The numbers were
pointing
good.
out how sick we are in general, it's obscene that we allow that.
Just even looking at pictures of us as a society in the 70s versus today.
Those beach photos.
Yeah,
that
the
they
beach
show,
photos. Like everyone's healthy.
We went from beach beauties to beach wells. That's what we went to.
That was a decent joke.
You like that? No, but people would rather suffer than to get a second opinion. That's all Robert F. Kennedy is saying. He's saying, get a second opinion and let's make sure these vaccines are worth it. But once the left, their derangement is like, I'd rather go to the doctor and take the first opinion. Don't give me a second opinion. What they say is Bible.
But isn't some of it, in addition to just, freely disseminating information, the other part of this is there's a pushback against individuals making their own choices.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have people on the one hand that are saying, look, if a vaccine is working, then the only way we have to have everybody get vaccinated. But that seems to defy logic a bit, because if a vaccine really prevents you from getting the disease, then what difference does it make if someone else chose not to? They're going to get sick if the vaccine works. They'll get sick and you won't.
Well, it's really not.
What's wrong with an individual choice?
Yeah.
People make choices all the time with what they eat or what they do or don't exercise. That makes them sicker. I don't hear the outrage over those choices.
Yep. It's kind of like the same argument of, I'll just bring it up, like you're making a choice to eat a box of Krispy Kremes. And I make a choice not to, but I still am on the same insurance plan.
It's going to get me fat. That's what that's. If you eat those Krispy Kremes, you're going to get me fat. That's going to be worse thing. Yeah, if you eat those, it's going to get me fat. If my vaccine worked for me and you choose not to get it, and you take your ass out there and get sick, that's on you.
That is a solid point.
Don't you make so much sense?
I tried to.
Don't you make so much sense?
But so just again, you're probably getting off track a little, but in terms of healthy choices or unhealthy choices, we were talking about some friends of mine. We were talking smoking cigars, and which you don't inhale. There's not additives or it's not added chemicals. But there was an excerpt from a table, and it had to do with environmental factors that actuaries use on, and that's in your world or former world, recovering actuarial table reader. But they had a list of all these external factors that had the biggest impact on shortening lifespan. And the number one was cigarettes, right? Number two, by a lot, was refined sugar.
Yeah.
I mean, why isn't there, if we're banging our fists on the table about, whether somebody can choose to have a vaccine, maybe we should be talking about what's in our food, which is really what RFK is trying to talk about.
Which is why so many people fell in love with it. And there were so many people that voted for Trump because there was a large portion of my friends that were RFK voters before he chose to join alliances with Trump. Like, they would have voted for him over Trump. And there was a little bit of fear, at least from me, that if he ran as third party, the Democrats would win because it would siphon away from the people that really want what's best for America.
Yeah.
So when they teamed up, I think is really when we got pushed over the edge with an overwhelming majority.
Yeah.
That's what's driving this wedge is the big money donors, the food companies and stuff. They are shaking in their boots that they're going to get exposed, and he may enlighten the public to how dangerous some of these sugars and stuff are. So they're like, we don't want him.
Let me tell you about my trip to D.C. So I know I told you I used to lobby for the financial industry. So Jason, you may not have heard this, but one of my trips there, I'm staying at that Hyatt that's on Capitol Hill.
Yeah.
And well, first of all, I'm going down the escalator. Tucker Carlson's coming up, and I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. This is before he was major, but I was in the lobby about to walk up to Capitol Hill, and there's all these tables set up, and it's like Nestle and all these candy bars and stuff. And I'm like, what are y'all doing here? They're like, oh, we're handing out candy. I was like, yeah, but for what?
Right.
And they're like, oh, we're here to lobby. I'm like, for what?
Exactly.
And he's like, oh, we work under the sugar subsidies. I'm like, okay. So tell me more. Like, I was just very curious. Like, oh, we're trying to get sugar subsidies. I was like, but everyone knows sugar's bad for you. And like the conversation like very quickly ended. But I'm sitting here going, okay, I'm trying to educate lawmakers on how financial products work in the real world so that they don't tax them even more, which hurts regular everyday Americans. Right. They're going to lobby for more money on refined sugars that makes all of us worse.
Yeah.
It's like totally opposite. It just blew my mind, but at the same time opened my mind to all the money that's in Washington and everyone that's trying to suck on the teat.
You got to see how the sausage is made.
Wasn't it only about $2 million that was paid to those Harvard scientists back in the late 70s to change their findings on whether sugar was really as harmful as it is? It didn't, they basically changed and said that it doesn't create diabetes, plaque buildup, another weight gain, and I think they ended up using those two studies to parlay into changing the food pyramid. Right, and the FDA got into that, but another story.
All right, let's end with this. It's hot news off the press. We don't have a lot of facts yet, but the D.C. plane crash happened last night. It was probably 10 p.m. Eastern, right? Around that time?
Yeah, around that time.
Because it was about 9 o'clock. I flipped on the news as I was getting notifications And so for those that are slow to the uptake, a Black Hawk helicopter runs into a regional jet carrying 60-some passengers, and reports right now everyone is deceased. So prayers out to their families, first and foremost, because this is a horrible situation. Tragic situation. We haven't had a commercial airline crash in 16 years. It was 2009 was our last one in America. So it's really a rare thing. Like, a lot of people have fears over flights, but hopping in our cars every day is significantly more, talking about those actuarial tables, significantly higher chance of you dying driving your car every day than you jumping on an airplane.
Right.
But this hits close to home because it was here in the States and it's been so long.
Yeah.
And in a very odd fashion.
Yeah.
What are you guys thinking?
Good, yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, again, we're on limited information. More will happen. It appears that the plane was, on a steady path coming in. Accidents happen. It's nighttime. It's very busy. Like, those things happen. But, again, I think it's worth asking questions, and, if for no other reason than to prevent another tragedy like this happening. But, in the event that there is something outside the norms, I think that, again, truth and sunlight are better for society than, sweeping it under the rug.
100%. I've said this often on the show. I don't know if Jason, if I've ever said it to you, but there wouldn't be conspiracies if they would just tell us the truth.
Right.
Right. And so, to your point, get to the bottom of it, because there's already conspiracies out there that we've all heard.
Yeah.
And so it's like, and the Democrats, 5 minutes after it happened, I saw Occupy Democrats blaming Trump.
Because they don't want safety. They don't
But
want
it's like, let's get
solutions. They
fat.
want scapegoats.
However, isn't that the hallmark of most modern day conspiracies, is immediately blame Trump?
Oh, Trump was flying the plane. He parachuted out. People are so emotionally caught up on political lines that safety, solutions, stopping problems are out the window. We want that scapegoat. Some people are inviting it. Yes, we can blame Trump to make people emotionally hate him, to act like Trump really was up there flying a plane or something. So when you start drifting down that road to saying, I watch people die and kind of be happy to see it so I can make this guy look bad, you need to look in the mirror.
There were worse comments than that. I mean, there were people saying that, they wished that Vance and Trump would have been on the VIP heli. I mean, just awful.
It's just crazy. It's crazy.
So that's the key. Is they said it was a military training mission. However, it was a VIP helicopter, and there's two different reports. Jason heard one, I heard another, and it was the helicopter took off either from Langley or an address that the one that I heard, it was an address where Saudi Arabian royalty own a residence. Whether or not they were there,
they're both in that general area, though.
Yeah. So a lot of facts to be discerned here. But that's the thing for everyone, is like, I even saw some tweet that said Obama was the VIP on the helicopter. And they weren't saying good riddance or anything. They literally just stated that fact. And I'm like, and then Obama tweeted today as well, prayers to the families affected, which that's a good tweet, not blaming someone else in the next breath. Like, no, the thoughts should be on the families affected.
Right.
So he tweeted out.
He tweeted out.
Did he? You have anything to say, Jen?
Are you getting into that rumor? For those not knowing that rumor, is that Obama and Jennifer Aniston have something going on. I saw that rumor as well, but again, nothing, no factual information on that yet.
I would hope she had better taste than that. I would have believed it if they would have said, "You have anything to say, Boy George?"
I probably would have believed it if it would have been Ben Affleck.
Or Ross from Friends, one of those. But yeah, the plane crash is awful. Goes down in the river, both of them. Looks like the plane was cut in half.
Yeah.
From the accident. But just an awful situation. We'll wait for more facts to come out on that. But the responsibility needs to happen, so, like you said, Jason, to prevent future accidents, because I've seen and talked to other pilots at night. It's really hard to see.
Yeah, I had read a report that it's common in this type of training where the pilots oftentimes wear like a night
The night vision goggles. Yeah.
that can interfere with your peripheral vision. It makes, other lights brighter. It's hard to distinguish it. So, again, it may very well just be an accident, but in a day and in an age where, you're trying to restore trust with your citizens, the government should be, not sit on a report like they did with the JFK files, but get a report out there, let people know what's going on, and, people can have comfort.
And if it was an accident?
Yeah, we
Sure.
just want the truth, no matter which way the pendulum sways. I mean, you have to find some good out of this. Maybe different practice and training,
Right.
Something. You can't continue to have stuff like this happen. You can't.
Said it before, I'll say it again. Sometimes the worst things that happen to us or become the best things that happen for us.
In the long run.
In the long run. And that's if you make it so.
Yeah.
If you learn from it.
Yeah.
If you continue to grow with it and make sure it doesn't happen again. So that's it. But any closing thoughts on our conversation today?
Well, I want to thank Jason's lovely wife, Jess, for the beautiful Louis Vuitton wallet that she gifted me. I love you for that. Shout out to Jackson, Jess.
That's awesome. Jason, any closing thoughts?
I would just say, thanks for, taking the time and the invite to come out here and share some thoughts. And, so I guess feel like civility and human interaction is probably the way forward. If we, the country comes together, it's got to be being open, being honest, and being civil. And if we can do that, I think that's a good start.
It's a great start. That's the civility is the thing that we've lost for a couple decades. It's like having a conversation that someone's found their identity in their political affiliate. Like, it's really hard to have those civil conversations. But Ian and I have talked about this frequently, and that's why we talk about your establishment so much. And this is really where that podcast idea got birthed, is we can sit in your cigar lounge with any different walk of life.
Yep.
Lower class, upper class, different skin colors, different religions, different political ideologies, and have a civil conversation over a shared experience of love of cigars, and have some of the most beautiful conversations.
Well, and I can tell, that's clearly what, I'm in that industry because of that very fact. I fell in love with the cigar culture 30 years ago in Boston, when I had my first cigar at a cigar lounge. And the ability to, again, everybody from all walks of life, they treat each other well, share conversations over time. So these long form conversations, flush out nuance and you can find commonality with people. I will tell you a quick story that before I bought the tasting room, one of the things that really, pushed me over the edge was I saw back in the Act 10 days when there was fights in Wisconsin, there were these two guys. I hadn't met either one of them. They happened to sit down next to each other at the old tasting room, a small place. And they introduced themselves and lit up their cigars, just randomly started talking. They'd never met. The one guy says, "Hey, so what do you do?" And he says, "Well, I'm a lobbyist. I'm in town for the national right to work legislation, and I'm working with Act 10. And the other guy says, "No kidding." And he's, "Well, what do you do?" He goes, "Well, I'm a lobbyist for the teachers union for the state of Wisconsin," which, diametrically opposed, right? Like that old, coyote and sheepdog cartoon, right? You'd think they'd be fighting. They sat there and they laughed and they told funny stories about each one of the challenges that they have. They exchanged cards, and at least in my heart, I think they worked something out as a result of that cigar. But it was a nice.
Or they're like, how do we milk these people for more money?
It was probably that. I think it was candy bars. You probably saw them.
No, that's what's so great about cigar lounges. And it used to be, what is it? The seeds of a rebellion were sown in a tavern.
Yeah.
And
do you know where?
Where?
At the Green Lantern in Boston. It's one of the oldest, Union Oyster House, and then about a half a block away, where Paul Revere actually went to hide in the basement that night, where they keep the ale down in the basement. He hid down with the kegs of beer when the soldiers were running around looking for him.
That was
all
awesome.
the revolutionaries.
Great little piece of history there. So, but that's what the cigar lounges have come for me today. Is it doesn't matter, if we go over to Lake Country, if we're here, if I'm down in Chicago, like you just were, which you can't, you got a BYOB in Chicago,
Yeah.
which is unfortunate because Jason's got some of the best cocktails and bourbon collection in Madison. So we always get great drinks there. And if you're a non-drinker, got great mocktails. The bartenders are all skilled.
And root beer on tap.
Well, yeah, that's right. And root beer on tap, and E's got the coffee machine there going.
I got it going on, but I love the cigar bar because you get to use your 4 T's. You can talk, teach, and thank and trust one another. So that's a beautiful thing that you can do at the cigar bar.
Yeah.
You can learn a lot. You know, it's not all about pushing your points or winning a debate. Talk to someone. You can learn a lot from someone.
Yeah.
And a quick story at the cigar bar. No one was in there one day. I had my earbuds in, and this crazy looking guy was walking in. I'm sitting over there saying, please don't sit by me. I don't feel like talking today. And of course, he said, do you mind if I sit next to you? True story. I said, sit down.
Was it?
Nah, yeah, I see. I move around when I see you. This guy was the most interesting guy. He flew his plane in from Kalamazoo. He was teaching me about twin engines, and he was like, one of his engines went out, and he was a doctor, and he was up in Platteville going to Richland Center to do like gallbladder removal. But I said, give me your card. Next time you come up, make sure you call me. And see, that's what happens when you sit down and talk and get to learn from someone. He was showing me weather Dopplers, when he could take off. Very interesting guy. So
when you have 45 minutes to 2 hours, you're not going anywhere because you're in comfortable chairs.
Mm-hmm.
You're in an inviting environment. You got this beautiful cigar that you're smoking that you bond over, because if that's the only thing you have in common, you're going to find that as the middle point, and then the conversation spurred from there.
Yeah.
And so for those of people, and maybe you're listening and you don't smoke cigars, but if you go to a well-ventilated one like the tasting room, I've seen plenty of people there on dates that don't smoke cigars.
Exactly.
They're there for the drinks, the ambiance, and the company.
Yes.
And so that's the thing, is you find yourself in these beautiful conversations, these beautiful spots, and man,
you meet some interesting people.
Yeah.
Shout out to the staff. The staff is excellent over there. So
Yeah.
it's the place to be.
That's right. Well, this has been a great conversation, boys.
Yes.
So Spartans, you know what to do. Share these episodes far and wide. The leadership and reviews are always our fun ones. Obviously, the regular production ones we're doing with high-level leaders, giving you as much inspiration and impact as possible. Share this. Remember, the good and great are the enemies of possible. Lead like a Spartan today.
This is Sparta!